Hello everybody, I'm in St. Paul's this Ascension Day, and I want to share with you a few thoughts from the Gospel according to Mary Poppins. We all know the 1960s movie, don't we, from our childhood? Well, if we think about it, it's not a harmless kids' movie. It's quite a subversive message, criticising the modern world and ways of things and encouraging us to turn the world upside down, or maybe turn it the right way up. Like all of sinful humanity, the Banks family find themselves in a real mess, falling short of the glory of the life that God has made for us. They're not communicating, they're distant and unloving. Then, from the heavens descends none other than Mary Poppins, entering that dysfunctional family as nanny to Jane and Michael and opening their eyes to new possibilities. She grabs their attention early on by working wonders, producing large objects from her carpet bag, clicking her fingers, and objects in the room come to life and tidy themselves away. She slides up the banister. And Mary jolts them into a new reality, drawing them into colourful lived parables, joyous scenes of rescuing a hunted fox, riding hobby horses, dancing with penguins. Poppins spends her time with Bert, a simple ragged man that the very prim Mr. Banks would turn his nose up at if he crossed him in the street. At various points, Bert is a pavement chalk artist, a one-man band, a kite salesman, and of course a chimney sweep. Some of those jobs just bring delight and joy to other people. The kites and the chimney sweeping, well, they sort of link him with Mary herself, to the sky. The film is full of references to Ascension, the sky, heaven, up there. That's where Mary came from early on in the film, and allusions to Ascension bubble up as we go along. There's Edwin, the laughing uncle who floats up to the ceiling. The sweeps, they dance across the roofs of London by night, a privileged view afforded to these humblest of Edwardian men. And of course there's the bird woman on the steps of St. Paul's, not this one, Dunbow, but London. Humble people who glimpse and experience something that eludes a lot of us, that eludes people with more social prestige and money in their pockets. Now, Mary's coming doesn't immediately bring the family together. As in the Gospels, conflict builds, escalating with the great confrontation in the capital. St. Paul's and the Bank of England stand in opposition. On one side, you have the bird woman on the cathedral steps. She's surrounded by statues of the 12 apostles. Her ministry is to feed, to give life, to enable others to fly. Mr. Banks, on the other hand, the name is rather obvious, he takes Jane and Michael into the bank, his employer, for a lesson in the miracle of capital. Money makes more money. Young Michael has to make a decision, just like we all have to make a decision in relation to the kingdom of heaven. The bank director tries his hardest to persuade Michael the other way, towards the empire of Mammon. He sings, "And you'll achieve that sense of conquest as your affluence expands in the hands of the directors who invest as propriety demands. You see, Michael, you'll be part of railways through Africa, dams across the Nile, and you'll achieve that sense of stature as your influence expands to the high financial strata that established credit now commands. Think of the foreclosures, bankruptcies, debtor sales, opportunities." All because of tuppence, frugally, prudently invested in the, to be specific, in the Dawes, Tomes, Mouseley, Grubbs, Fidelity Fiduciary Bank. But young Michael makes his decision. I want to feed the birds. The bank director grasps his tuppence. Give me my money, give me my money, says young Michael, and in an instant the table of the money changers has been overturned. Customers hear and they think the bank is refusing to pay out, so there's a run on cash withdrawals, recession, markets collapse, the British Empire is faced with collapse, all because a little boy would rather feed the birds than invest his tuppence as capital. The whole thing is exposed as fragile and unultimate as it really is. Mr. Banks is crushed. He's instructed to attend a board meeting where he'll be fired. But beforehand, he stops by St. Paul's to pray. And in the next moments, miraculously, that strange world of Mary Poppins makes sense to him. Feeding birds, silly jokes, and that word, what was it? Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Mr. Banks is transformed. He notices and understands his children. The family's filled with love and joy like never before. At last they're united among a wider community of people who are all looking upwards to the heavens, flying their kites. And so, says Mary, the time's come to leave them. The time has come for her to ascend back into the heights from whence she came. But why? Why could she not stay? Well, because her job is done. Now the right thing to do is to leave the Banks family for a time so they can get on with the job of being and becoming the loving, joyous family that Mary has inspired them to be, all looking heavenward as they fly their kites. Just like following his earthly ministry, his clash with worldly values and authorities, his death and resurrection, our Lord Jesus ascended into heaven, which we remember today. He ascends to the Father's right side, and he makes space and time for us, his followers today, to live out our vocation as a transformed humanity, living the life that he's made possible. Only Mary's closest disciple, Bert, gets to say goodbye. He says, "Don't stay away too long, Mary." We too say to Jesus, "Even so, Lord, come quickly." So, a very happy, in fact, a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious Ascension Day to you all.